I grew up in a conservative part of the Bangladeshi American community in Brooklyn. As long as I can remember, my community and my family have always talked about my marriage. I remember when I was in 5th grade, my dad told me that he would send me over to Bangladesh to get married. But the only thing that prevented that was our assumption, and my father's assumption, that in the United States, you can't marry minors. And in the United States, we protect minors and women. But the reality was, if my father had waited 4 more years, because at that time I was 10, if he waited 4 more years until I turned 14, he could have legally married me in my very state of New York, and I would have no legal avenue of objecting. My father's ignorance and assumption of the law is what kept marriage at bay until I was 16. Around that time, one of my closest friends had found out that her parents had found someone for her, and that he was 25 years old, and she was only 16 going on 17. He said that if she liked him, then she would be married in a few months. The reality is, there was no choice in the matter. If she said no, then she would be branded as a disobedient daughter for going against her parents' wishes. There is no choice. When she told me and our close friends of 5 that she was going to get married, we didn't ask, is he cute? Does he have money? What kind of car does he drive? Our immediate response was unanimous fear. Fear for her safety, fear for her future, and fear that looms in the air when you know that you could be next. Our only constant question to her was, are you sure? Because even though at that time we didn't know what the term forced marriage was, we knew that she was being pressured on all sides. Even though we didn't know what the term child marriage was, we knew that she was going through it. And even though we didn't know the term domestic violence, we knew that she was marrying a man 8 years older than her who can easily overpower and control her. And even though we didn't know the term victim, we knew that we had no way of preventing her from becoming one. During the winter break of our senior year, we gathered in her home in Brooklyn to celebrate her wedding. And it was a wedding without joy. It's been 4 years now since she's been married, and she's okay. She got lucky. She and her family all agree that she was one of the lucky ones, because she doesn't represent the far and the vast majority of girls who end up being held hostage by her family and their elder husbands. She didn't represent the girls that were excommunicated from their families and their communities for divorcing their abusers. She didn't represent the vast majority of girls who ended up pregnant before they were ready for motherhood. And she didn't represent so many of the people that I've known, girls that I've known, who have simply vanished. As for me, my friend's marriage involved my parents, and they pursued trying to convince me to get married again. I was 16 at the time, and what started off with just simple mind games, where they made me feel like I was nothing and that I didn't do anything for them, and the least I could do as a good daughter was marry someone that they chose. The mind games didn't work, so they switched to verbal abuse, and that turned into physical abuse. At that time, I just started college, and to evade the unwarranted violence that was so irrational that my mere presence in my home was enough to provoke their rage, I would make it a routine to stay late after school at college, way past anyone else. My strange routine caught the attention of one of the deans at Hunter College, and I got her one day and she asked me, am I okay? And for some reason, she gets the feeling that I was unsafe in my own home. And she didn't ask me any further questions. She offered me a room at the dorms. And she said if I would like, I could move in. So I did. I survived the pressure. And I survived early enough not to have to be a victim of child marriage. I was lucky to have someone look out for me, a complete stranger. But it wasn't her job to do it. It's our job as a state, it's your jobs as legislatures to protect minors and girls. I got out of that home, that broken home. And it was around that same time that I started interning at Sanctuary for Families. It was there that I learned the terms, that I learned that there were words for my experiences, like child marriage, coercion, forced marriage, domestic violence. But then when I did my own research, I found that my state of New York allows minors as young as 14 to get married. My immediate response was betrayal, because I thought for so long that this country and our laws had protected me from child marriage when I was 10 to when I was 18. It was in my research that I found that my experience wasn't limited to my community and it wasn't a rare occurrence. And that my friend wasn't a rare case. In fact, it's projected that there are 9.5 million women alive today in the United States that have, in one time in their lives, been a victim of child marriage. It is there that I learned that there are 4,000 cases of child marriage here in the state of New York between 2000 and 2010. And it's where I learned that there was research done where they underestimated 3,500 cases of forced marriage throughout the United States. And I say underestimated because there is a tremendous lack of data and information on the realities that so many minors and girls face every day. It's not that the problem doesn't exist, but it's because we're not conscious of it. It's because we don't see it when it's right in front of our faces. They're highly unlikely to finish their education. They're highly likely to be at risk of domestic violence. They're at a high risk of being pregnant and pregnant multiple times at a young age and bear and rear children as children. They are highly at risk of poverty, and their children are at risk of poverty. And some say that it's a matter of respecting cultural and religious values and cultural and religious practices in the United States. But I ask, what about respecting the wishes and futures of children? For those of us who have forgotten what it means to be 14 and 15 and 16 and 17, here's a rundown. At 14, you're in 9th grade. You probably have braces. And you have a crush on some guy in a boy band. At 15, you're in 10th grade. And you're probably experimenting with your identity, going through that emo gothic phase or something. At 16, you're in 11th grade. And your life is consumed by the SATs. And hopefully you've gotten past that identity crisis. And at 17, you're in 12th grade. It's when you're applying to your colleges and thinking about your future. So let's make it very clear. Allowing marriages under the age of 18 is not about being culturally or religiously sensitive. It's not about people's happiness. It's about children's rights. And the statistics that show that it's overwhelmingly women and girls that are affected makes it a women's rights issue as well.